I have a question for the rest of America. Does anyone even care about Nebraska?
I'm going to try and answer this as respectfully as possible. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know anyone that does.
Welcome back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is another hilarious story. Let me ask you, does anyone care for Nebraska? Well, I guess not, because Nebraska is always in the news for something bad happening. Does anyone care for Nebraska? Because right now, Nebraska is in hot soup. Nebraska is in trouble once again. The state asks for federal help to avoid bankruptcy. Now, this is it. Nebraska is urgently asking for federal aid to prevent bankruptcy as it faces a serious economic crisis. The problem started with Trump's tariffs and a big drop in migrant farm workers. You all remember the deportations? Well, almost 60% of Nebraska farm workers were illegal immigrants. So you see where this is coming from. With farm profits falling and fewer workers available, Nebraska's economy is in danger, critical danger. State leaders say that without quick help, the agricultural heart of the country could collapse, putting many jobs and food supplies at risk.
Maybe y'all saw the news out of Nebraska today. Apparently our entire state is going to go bankrupt in 2 quarters. Me and my husband owned a cattle ranch here, and I can confirm that all of the cattle ranchers here overwhelmingly voted for Trump. We support him. We voted for him. Something like 70% of our entire workforce is undocumented immigrants, and they straight up are not showing up for work anymore. They have all either fled the country, fled the state. They don't want to get raided while at work, so they have just moved on to work somewhere else. And straight up, we are going to go bankrupt now. We are going to go bankrupt. And, we voted. We knew that the immigrants would get deported and he was coming after immigrants, yet we still voted for it. Overwhelmingly voted for our own demise. I was talking to my husband last night, and I have to admit that it seems a bit foolish now when you think about it like that we voted for something that is now putting us directly out of business.
Whoa, it looks like Nebraska is broke. Yes, Nebraska is facing a $500 million deficit shortage. Yes, they're in trouble. And this from a state that just a few years ago had a huge budget surplus, largely because of pandemic money. But what did they do with it? How smart were they? Well, they got all this money. Let's cut taxes. Let's cut taxes. Let's cut taxes. So what's happened? Yes, their revenues have fallen, and now they can't sell goods because other countries don't want to buy their farming goods. So they're now stuck. And now they have to go beg to the federal government, please bail us out. Please bail us out. Yes, Nebraska, you are under the typical Republican rule where you just think cutting taxes is going to be the answer. Well, cutting taxes and being rude to other countries doesn't seem to pay, does it? And now you're stuck. And now you have a $500 million shortage. And you have no one to blame but yourselves. Nice job, Nebraska.
Someone please go check on Nebraska. Do you guys know what's going on over there? And if you don't know what's going on, that's why you have me, so I can explain it to you. But básicamente, Nebraska is about to go bankrupt in 6 months. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to smile. It's just a little ironic because majority of Nebraska voted for you-know-who, el pendejo, right? Majority of Nebraska is like, does anybody care about us? We're about to go bankrupt in 6 months. And the reason why they're about to go bankrupt is because the majority of the workforce in Nebraska is built off, who do you think? The back to Latinos, right? That are undocumented. And they're scared to go to work. And they're not giving any money to the farmers. So their agriculture is dead. They're like, who cares? Can somebody come and help us? No, mijo. I have no pity for you. Sorry.
So the other day I heard that in Nebraska, farmers are about to lose their farms because they voted for Trump. If they only had someone to let them know that voting for him was going to be so disastrous. Oh no, wait, they did. But I guess the only thing left to do now is to sing about it. There was a farmer had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. He was racist and he voted for Trump, E-I-E-I-O. With a racist here and a racist there, here, there, everywhere there's ICE raids. There was a farmer had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. Keyword here is had.
Hey, Nebraska, is this you? Come on up to the front of the classroom. I have some information for you.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
So I know that when you elected Donald Trump, you decided to put all of your apprehensions aside and elect a person who was clear about his intentions. He was going to get rid of undocumented immigrants, which would cause your primary industry, the agriculture industry, to go down. Then he decided to do away with the farm subsidies, basically welfare, that would just annihilate farmers in Nebraska. But wait, there's more. Those two things are just the tip of the iceberg. I was told from a well-placed source that you guys are considering bankruptcy in the not so distant future. They said 6 months or so. So if you combine all of that bad news with these people deciding to vote against you who desperately need health care, they are and will and have voted for a framework of a budget that would basically annihilate Medicaid in your state. Let me give you a secret. I don't know if you know this, but over 341,000 residents in Nebraska are on Medicaid. That represents $3.7 billion of revenue, of money, of spending that goes to the state of Nebraska for health care. And this is not just health care, just ad nauseum. This is health care that goes to take care of patients and then also goes to fund hospitals in a rural state, hospitals that are desperately needed. Now, this is the kicker. Of that $3 billion or so that goes into the state, the federal government picks up 69%. In essence, only 30% of that money you have to contribute. But the problem is, since you're going bankrupt and all, you're not going to be able to contribute that. You have come into the zone of FAFO. Unfortunately, that map, this map, is going to be your downfall.
Nebraska's GDP is down 6%, and farmers are struggling. And Congressman Don Bacon says tariffs aren't helping. Corn is one of the things Nebraska is best known for, but right now, it's a crop that isn't guaranteeing a profit for some farmers. The Nebraska Farm Bureau tracks crop prices. In July 2022, it was selling for more than $7 a bushel. That's now dropped to less than $5. Soybeans went from $16 to $10 in the same time frame. Bacon says tariffs are only exacerbating the issue, and he says it's time for Congress to reclaim its authority over tariff policy.
Putting tariffs on 80 different countries, is that an emergency power or is that tariff policy? I think that's tariff policy. And tariff policy is under the purview of Congress. And I think it's time that Congress bring this authority back.
Bacon says he doesn't believe the majority support behind the effort is there yet, but he expects it will be a good debate in September. For more details on this story, head over to KETV.com.
Some new numbers have just come out that actually, in some way, make me happy, in some ways make me sad. See, in the first quarter of 2025, bankruptcies for farmers exceeded the 2024 total for the year. And in the second quarter, according to new reporting that just came out, they doubled last year's number. So the farmers that overwhelmingly voted for the administration we have are filing bankruptcies at a record pace. The last time farm bankruptcies were this high was during Trump's last term. For somebody that claims to love farmers, he sure just consistently hurts them. In fact, the last time it was this high was between 2018 and 2019. You would think maybe it was during 2020 and all that craziness, but no. This is all pre-pandemic Trump wonderful economic policies affecting farmers once again.
So Senate Democrats have gone off and put in the rule of 5 to get the Epstein files released. Pretty much pushing, we need to see this. So it'll be curious to see, I believe it's like August 15th, they have to release it. So it'll be curious to see if that actually comes out and how many times we see our president's name on the list. I still don't understand though how people think he's great for us. Like, he's tripled our national debt by like trillions. And because of the big, beautiful bill that's going, like, our national debt is going to rise for the next 10 years. We've been put on the Human Rights Watch list because of the fact that all the other countries see that our rights are being stripped away and basically saying, yeah, we have rights. And then the president goes off and does everything he can to overturn that. We're giving health care to Israel, but we still somehow can't afford free health care for our own people. Still can't fix poverty, even though with the fact with how quickly they built Alligator Alcatraz, which there's still so many people that are there being denied basic medical attention, people that are there that are U.S. citizens, etc., etc. So there's that, but since that was built in 8 days, which means that we could fix poverty in this country in a week. But again, will they do that? No. Nope, they won't. So there's that. But in all other Western countries, first world countries, they've advised their citizens to not come here, to the fact that if they come here, they'll probably will get arrested and deported, even if they come here to visit on vacation. That's never happened. In the last 47 presidents we've had, none of them have put us on a human rights list, and we've never had people advise, hey, don't go here, otherwise you'll get arrested and thrown in jail. But yet Trump has done that. Trump has put us on a human rights watch list, and people somehow still think he's great. Oh, and then wholesales are rising due to the inflation because of the tariffs. So, I mean, there's that. How are we winning? I'm confused. How are we winning? How are we great again? Like, all other countries see how we're becoming a fascist government, which again is another example of how he's also putting the National Guard onto Washington, D.C., which has one of the lowest crime rates right now in the last few years. And yet he's deploying the National Guard. And there's videos of homeless people having bags over top of their heads, arrested, surrounded by cops. Because there's one right now of a guy in a wheelchair, and he has a bag over his head, surrounded by cops. Fascist government. Fascist government. I don't think you guys understand what that is, but I mean, that's beside the point. But how are we great? How are we winning? I don't get it. And all other first world countries see how we're not winning either. Heck, even Russia is condemning our actions. Like, Putin is saying how wrong we're being, especially with the whole Israel thing. So, like, we're having a dictator say we're in the wrong. Shouldn't that be a wake up for most of you guys? I would think so.
Clean up DC, lower the crime rate, prove that he can do it, and sure enough, he's going to enforce it in other cities. Either they force it or the people are going to want it. You know what I mean? This is the greatest thing about this administration. They're in their 8th year now, 16th year of Trump, right? They're so far ahead right now within these 8 months. It's amazing what they can do and how much they've got accomplished and how many things, except for the Epstein case, I know.
So Nebraska, which is a red state, is still scheduled to go broke in 6 months, and the residents are very unhappy about it. And they had this to say.
So are we going to sit home on the couch and let these billionaires control the country? Hell no. We are the poor people. We're a red state.
Now, that was a 5-minute video that I cut down to that about 10-second clip that I just showed you, because what that man said in that clip was so significant. It really, really stuck out to me. The part where he said, we're a red state, really, really stuck out to me, and further reinforces when we always say that many people who voted for this administration believed that the policies of this administration would not affect they asses. Y'all fucked around, and now it's time for y'all to find out. Y'all voted for hate, even with the possibility that you might go hungry, even with the possibility that it might affect your health. Y'all voted for hate. Congratulations on getting what you voted for.
So this happened in Omaha a couple of days ago. They named the businesses, they named the people that run the businesses, but they don't name the cops that were protecting them. Their names should be released. They should have termination papers and indictments.
Hey, Nebraska, do you need a tissue for your issues? Hey, Nebraska, save the drama for your mama. What happened, Nebraska? Did voting for Trump ruin your economy? Oh, that's weird. That's so weird. It's kind of like we told you so, right? Oh, I love this. I like to stick it in your face and rub it in. It's kind of like, when Trump was telling everybody he was going to come after the undocumented people in this country that were working hard and deport them, that they would kind of move to a state they felt safe in. And apparently, Nebraska wasn't one of them. They packed up their stuff and they headed on out to a state that would welcome them with open arms. So now you're going bankrupt. And as somebody that lives in a blue state, I could give a shit less. Boo-hoo. Oh, and I can't wait for the hated comments. I can't wait for it. You voted for this!
Oh, soybean farmers in America are finding out. Donald Trump recently asked China to quadruple their purchasing of American soybeans. Donald, since the initial trade war you started, China started buying all their soybeans from Brazil and Argentina. All thanks to you. And now with their inputs going up and their exports going down, the American farmer can't survive. With small farm bankruptcies being at a 5-year high since the last Trump administration, nationwide farmers voted for Donald Trump at almost an 80% clip. Because even though Donald Trump ruined them last go around, he gave out the welfare queens their farmer subsidy that they needed. Welfare for me, the farmer, but not for thee, the citizen in America. With no talk of a subsidy on the horizon, their immigrant labor gone, the farmer having to pay more for the fertilizer they import and then the farming equipment they get from other countries. And now those other countries not buying their grain, their wheat, their soybean because of Donald Trump's tariffs that have made reciprocal ones in the countries that they're selling their agriculture to. And don't worry, farmers. These private equity firms can't wait to own your farm at the rock bottom prices they're going to be able to buy them for. I wonder if Blackstone will just incorporate the entire state of Nebraska. Your racism got you. Your hatred towards a system that does nothing but help you out and deliver for you in every way. But you wanted to take that away from other people, didn't you, farmers? You want everybody else to pull themselves up by your bootstraps, while the government makes you a welfare queen year after year. And the farmers are finding out.
You see a lot of creators on this app talking about Nebraska and how they're going bankrupt, right? And they're saying that corporations are going to buy those farms. Well, let me tell you something. What good is it for corporations to buy those farms if they don't have the goddamn workers? Use your common sense, people. Let me tell y'all something. I don't think y'all really know how much the state of Nebraska depends on immigrant workers. Like, I drove for a trucking company in Omaha, Nebraska for 11 and a half fucking years. And I pulled refrigerator trailers. And I used to pick up at those places. And them motherfuckers had nothing but immigrant workers. I'm talking about Hispanic, fucking African, Asian, you name it. They had it at those plants. And I'll tell you another state depends on the motherfuckers too, and that's Iowa, South Dakota, North Dakota. Them motherfuckers heavily depend on immigrant workers. Y'all just don't know how screwed those states are going to be. Like Nebraska ain't the only motherfucking one. Just wait. That whole entire Midwest. If you stay in the Midwest, you stay in farm country, you know exactly what I'm fucking talking about. And I can't forget about Kansas. Yeah, they got their fair share too.
I know right now, people, it's hard to find some joy in some things, but what I find joy in is I just watched a video on Montana where the Montana farmers are going bankrupt. I think the state voted 100% districts to what's going on. I look at Nebraska and see all the farmers crying about how they're losing everything, and then I look at Nebraska and how much they voted for this and how the farmers endorsed all this, and I say, fuck them. And then I'm watching the soybean farmers crying about how they can't export soybeans anymore because nobody wants them and they're losing money. But they supported this. Fuck them. Then I saw a video on vegetable farmers in Alabama that all their crops are going rotten because they don't have anybody to work the fields, but they voted for this, so
It's Joe from Georgia. So we're getting ready for the first domino to fall, and we know what happens after the first one falls. Well, the state of Nebraska, the governor, Jim Pillen, has asked the federal government for help because they're not going to be able to pay their bills this year. And here's the problem in Nebraska. They had over a $2 billion contract with the Chinese government to export soybeans to China. Well, out of that $2 billion, they've canceled all the contracts. So out of that $2 billion, $350 million was state revenue taxes. They're not getting any of that. And the governor also goes on to say that because the migrant farmers weren't able to work in Nebraska this summer, that those people didn't pay their taxes either. And the farmers who already have crops in the ground, folks, they've already spent their money. They're going to need help too because they're not getting any money from the contracts anymore. So Nebraska is the first state. And when you look at the Midwest, you're probably looking at Kansas, you're looking at Iowa, South Dakota, all of those places that are large exporters of grains to China and depend on migrant farm labor. They're not going to be able to pay their bills either. So here's the first one to fall. But of course, as we do know, a certain person in a certain house in Washington, D.C. at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, they know all about bankruptcy. I'm sure they'll be able to help.
I'm seeing a lot of hate towards these Nebraskan farmers, and I would love to hate on them. But we have to root for them because if these small farms go out of business,
Farmers are struggling and struggling hard. And it's bad. I mean, it's really, really bad. My buddy has been a farmer in Alabama forever. His family has done it for 4 generations, and they are struggling. He said, Drayton, this is the number one problem. I don't care what they say on the news. This is the number one problem. Nobody wants our product. Nobody wants our goods. Nobody wants our corn, our wheat, our broccoli. Nobody wants it. We get hung up on. We don't have a market for our goods. Even if we can get it out of the field, it doesn't matter. Nobody wants our product. And that is with farmers across the country experiencing the exact same thing. Because Donald Trump and this administration is so horribly bad, countries around the world don't want anything to do with our farmers. And now farmers, you're learning that your vote for Republican is a bad vote. It is a vote you should never do. You're farmers. You should be voting for Democrats, not Republicans. Do you get it yet? Do you understand that yet? Or you just need to keep losing all your farms before you finally get it? It's bad, folks. It's really, really bad.
I'm seeing a lot of hate towards these Nebraskan farmers, and I would love to hate on them. But we have to root for them because if these small farms go out of business, who's going to buy up these small farms? It's going to be the corporations. And we're going to be even more fucked than we are now. They're just going to be able to rule everything, price gouge us on everything. So as much as I don't want to be supportive, we kind of have to support them and, do anything we can to help them out, even though they voted for the wrong person.
Thank you for watching Great Minds Blacks.